Look like fun? It is. There's nothing more exhilarating than the sense of freedom you have when riding the open road on your own two-wheeler. Cycling has brought about a change to the great outdoors. That's me on a BSA 250cc. Dangerous? Only when the operator refuses to respect the power beneath him and to accept the responsibility that goes with it. That's what our story is all about. Not where we are going as much as where we have been. There are 12 in our group, all members of Explorers Post 981. And we have just been through the most critical hours of every cyclist's life. I first became interested in motorcycles 8 months ago. It seemed that everywhere I looked, there they were. These weren't teenagers alone, but businessmen, engineers. Even a noted psychologist is quoted as saying, "Cycling relieves the pressures of everyday living." It was becoming more and more obvious that cycles were growing in popularity, not merely because they are fun, but because of their mobility and economy as well. Taking all this into consideration, I decided it was going to become my means of transportation, and that the time to start learning was now. There was one problem, however. While there was an excellent driver training course I could take in high school, there was no such program for motorcycles. I not only needed driver training, I had no idea which cycle to buy. There seemed to be such a selection to choose from. I discussed the idea of starting a cycle club with the members of my Explorer post, and our advisors suggested we seek the advice of professionals to determine what the problems would be and how to proceed. Their cooperation was beyond our greatest expectations. After several meetings, a committee was formed of representatives from BSA, an international motorcycle manufacturing firm, Public Safety Department of the Automobile Club of Southern California, local law enforcement, and representatives of the Boy Scouts of America. Together, the committee devised a 3-phase program which would consist of approximately 8 hours of classroom instruction and 24 hours of actual riding. Highly qualified motorcycle officers were selected by their superiors to serve as instructors during off-duty hours. Each participant must show proficiency in the state vehicle code and demonstrate a satisfactory degree of riding skill before being permitted to drive on the public streets. The cycle manufacturer supplied a cycle to each student for the duration of the program. And Post 981 headquarters was selected as the training site, 3 hours each Saturday, beginning phase 1 in the classroom. Cycles don't think for themselves. It's imperative that the rider understand and respect the machine he is driving. We studied suspension, drive, electrical and braking systems, as well as the engine and transmission, and learned how to make minor repairs, periodic mechanical checks a habit, and the importance of having regular checks by a dealer. The condition of the machine not only affects economy, but your safety as well. Knowing the function of every control and being able to operate them without looking down is the first rule to becoming a defensive driver. At 65 miles per hour, it takes 332 feet to apply pressure to the brakes and come to a safe stop, and varies at different speeds. They are good figures to memorize, and we did, along with the state vehicle code and the courteous rules of the road. Have you ever stopped to think exactly how traffic laws protect us? An accident can occur at an intersection because someone ran a red light or a stop sign. As with any vehicle, excessive speed is a major factor in traffic accidents. It is important to recognize and obey all posted traffic aids. One vital piece of equipment not part of the cycle is the helmet. One that fits and is made of durable material. Don't laugh at helmets. Look at professional athletes, astronauts, and racing drivers. There are many excellent cycle helmets on the market in a variety of colors. Head injuries are the biggest cause of motorcycle accident fatalities. So wear it. And keep it on. It may save your life. Phase 2, developing coordination between the right-hand throttle and the left-hand clutch. You must operate them simultaneously, without taking your eyes off the traffic conditions ahead. The throttle is extremely sensitive. Too much can throw you off balance and cause loss of control. Each of us repeated the procedure over and over. We could not advance to the next stage until we had acquired the ability and confidence in ourselves to operate all the controls properly. This was one great advantage of receiving individual instruction. No one particular student was forced to keep pace with another. Right now, I was having a lot of trouble getting started. There is a right and a wrong way to start a motorcycle. Move the weight far enough to the right for the leg to come straight down and through the pedal without touching the saddle. Then apply power smoothly and engage the clutch. With the rear wheel off the ground, it helps you to get the feel of engine power and is another method of learning to shift gears without actually being in motion. At the end of the training sessions, the instructor would discuss a particular problem someone might have, or answer questions. I knew the answer was up to me, but the big question on my mind was, when was I actually going to start riding? Sometime later, Jerry, my best friend, was being checked out already on the first ride. The instructor comes along to see if you feather the clutch properly. His first attempt was a bit shaky, so they tried it again. When stopping, simultaneously release the clutch, apply the foot brake, then the handbrake within the last few feet of the stopping point. It was my turn next, and was I eager? So eager, in fact, that I knocked over a pylon marker. I seemed to do everything else right, but I was sure he would lay down the law about my hitting the pylon. Was I ever surprised when he told me to try it on my own, but between the pylon markers, not over them. Balance is not as difficult as it may appear. A cycle will stay upright at any reasonable speed because the wheels act as gyroscopes and stabilize the bike in that position. I should have known I wasn't expected to go it alone yet. The instructor joined me again, but this time to ride alongside on his own cycle. He told me to ride straight down the field and devote more care to properly feathering the clutch. Before I realized it, the instructor was gone, and I felt like a kid on his first bicycle ride when he suddenly realizes no one is there to help you along anymore. There he was, standing next to the pylon markers. I made it. As I approached the other members of the group, they greeted me with a round of applause for not knocking over a pylon. In the weeks that followed, each participant went through the same process. First, straight line driving, with the instructor riding piggyback behind to check the clutch and throttle coordination, starting with a smooth takeoff, then coming to a safe stop. Then alone for the first time, with the instructor riding alongside, observing our posture and balance, and then again demonstrating the ability to feather the clutch and control familiarization. Everyone is riding alone now, but constant practice is necessary as we enter the third phase of the program. It is easy to see why becoming familiar with the controls and their functions before you are in motion is so important. You must keep practicing until you no longer have to think about the mechanics of riding, and you can devote all your attention to being a defensive driver. Once everyone had reached a satisfactory degree of riding skill alone, we were then able to realize our ambition to ride as a group. We started in single file. This gives practice and better control of speed and places a greater demand upon the driver to apply the previous training skills. As the instructor changes speeds and direction, we would attempt to maintain a constant distance between us and the cycle in front. Smooth performance is important in formation, not speed. Sit erect, but keep the muscles relaxed, especially the arms. Keep alert and anticipate the necessary reaction if the man ahead suddenly stops. A change in direction causes the motorcycle to lean. At low speed, tight turns require turning the handlebars and leaning at the same time. We were told to follow the lean of the bike. Don't turn the front wheel so far it will be caught and twisted sideways. This is because the speed is not sufficient to hold the cycle upright if the leaning is excessive. Whoops, I stalled my engine. I've got to fall out of formation and get back to the end of the line. The single file formation drills continued for several training sessions. Then one evening, the instructors announced that we were ready to operate our cycles at higher speeds, and that a location had been selected where we could simulate highway conditions without being in actual traffic. We were told to meet there next session. As a safety precaution, 2 men were stationed in a position where they could observe the entire run and dispatch assistance if needed. While they were making final preparations and checking the 2-mile route we were to follow, we were receiving instructions on how to form columns of 2s and what to do if we had to drop out of formation. This time we would be using all gears and taking curves at 40 miles per hour, requiring much more lean than at the previous speeds. The signal was given by the 2 observers that everything was ready and we could begin the run. The instructor gave us last-minute instructions as we mounted our cycles and started our engines. We were to maintain a distance of 6 feet from the rider at our side and 16 feet between each group. Should there be a problem, our instructions were to drop out of formation, stop at the side of the road, and wait for the observer teams to come to our aid. Then we were paired off, formed a column of 2, and pulled out into formation in low gear, and traveled in 2nd gear until the instructors were positioned at the head of the column. With riders in front, behind, and at the side, mental and emotional stability is imperative. We began to pick up speed and shift smoothly into 3rd gear. First, by simultaneously lowering the throttle clockwise and disengaging the clutch. Then, promptly moving the gear shift lever with the right foot into gear. start releasing the clutch, and at the same time increase the throttle slowly to maintain balance with the increased speed. The exact procedure is repeated to shift into high gear. The amount of leaning possible without gravity pulling the cycle over on its side is determined by the centrifugal force developed by the turning. Leaning into the curve counteracts the centrifugal force developed. The higher the speed or the shorter the radius of the curve, the more it is necessary to lean. The angle of lean will remain constant all the way around the curve, and you must keep the body at the exact angle of the cycle. Remember, every curve has a maximum speed at which it can be traveled. We discussed our performance in detail at the end of the run, and the instructors complimented all of us on our progress. I felt like I was ready for anything, except when he followed with the announcement that a press conference was to be held next week, so we could demonstrate to the community the results of our efforts and the success of the program. It was to be a sort of graduation exercise. I've got to admit I was a bit jumpy the morning of the big day. All the executives who originated the program were there, and then some. Such dignitaries as E.W. Coleman of BSA Motorcycles, Joe Haydner of the Auto Club of Southern California, and Deputy Scout Executive Vern Dunn. Chief Redden of the Los Angeles Police Department, even Britain's ambassador to the United States, Sir Patrick Dean, was there, and of course, our parents. When the command was given to mount and start our cycles, I couldn't help but wonder if I was going to knock over a pylon or maybe stall my engine in formation. We started with turns in and out through the pylons. And before I knew it, my nervousness was gone completely. It was a great feeling to react instinctively on the instructor's signal, to form a column of twos. We all realized we had reached the point where we could operate our machines with confidence and safety. Once again, a signal was given to form in a single file and execute tighter turns. We reacted without hesitation or thinking about riding fundamentals. Our undivided attention was devoted to the traffic situation around us. Our last maneuver was to park in a straight-line column. Everyone's performance was flawless. It was an exciting moment when the spectators demonstrated their approval and appreciation. Chief Redden of the police department expressed his pleasure at our achievement and his desire to see more such cycle programs in the future. We were pretty proud of ourselves after that. We no longer felt like novices, but skilled and proficient cyclists. As a reward, our first trip as a group would be a weekend trip to Scout Camp at Lake Arrowhead, California. We gathered at the church at 7 a.m. that morning, and Mr. Swart of the Automobile Club gave us a final briefing. The trip was to take 4 hours each way. Cabins with bunk beds were available, or we could take sleeping bags and personal gear for camping out, with cooking and swimming privileges. The route was chosen to provide extensive riding experience on city streets, highways, and mountain roads, as well as a test of our own riding ability. Our performance would determine if it was to be our last supervised training exercise. We were reminded to observe all posted signs and what to do in case of an emergency, and familiarized ourselves with a vehicle code pertaining to caravans. Everyone was ready for the final phase of the program, and by 8 a.m., we were right on schedule and on our way. 12 250cc bikes were arranged in 4 squads of 3 riders each and would function as an independent unit. The squad leader assigned to each unit was responsible for keeping his group intact. Also in the caravan were 3 escort vehicles with car-to-car communication, plus 1 service control unit equipped to communicate with the Auto Club San Bernardino radio center, and a repair van in case of mechanical breakdown was stationed at the rear. That's the story of our past. But it will influence the many years of riding pleasure we will encounter in the future. A large percentage of cycle accidents to novice riders occur in the first 7 weeks because of a lack of training and riding ability. Look for proper training, or better yet, talk to your local community leaders about assisting you in organizing your own cycle safety program. Before you ride, learn to ride. So it is up to you to see that your cycle trips end with pleasure. By the way you spend the most critical hours. All the members of Explorers Post 981 are grateful to those who contributed their time and efforts to make this cycle safety training program possible.